Hi guys! In this video we're going to do the kind of introduction to ratios. Ratios aren't necessarily as scary as they sound, but for ratios you need to know how to be able to play with fractions. So if you don't at this point, then you might want to grab one of my other videos about kind of fraction basics and things like that. So ratios are ways that you can make comparisons. These are the things in math that involve the dots. So in the videos that are coming up, we're going to use the dots. We're going to do these as word problems. We're going to use these where the dots are actually spelled out. So ratios are ways to compare things. In ratios, there are going to be 4 elements. And usually, and by usually I mean like 99.9% of the time, you're going to be solving for x. So it is a type of algebra, but not one that's going to be so scary. So if you've ever heard of babysitting, or if you've ever heard of like childcare or something like that, they say that for every 5 students there needs to be 1 teacher. That is a ratio. So for every 5 kids, 1 teacher. For every 5 people I'm going to have over my house, I need 2 pizzas so that I can feed them. Those are ratios. So let me show you what this looks like in terms of the dots, and we'll explain the rules. So with ratios, you're going to solve for x, and they will turn into fractions. We're going to talk eventually in the other videos, we're going to talk about how to deal with these when these show up as word problems as well. Okay, so ratios, like I said, they involve dots, and then you're usually solving for x. I'm sorry, I'm grabbing an example here for you. I don't like to make ratios up just in case they don't work out, but the truth of the matter is that you could really use anything as a ratio, and it'll still work out even if you have a decimal or something like that. Okay, so we're not going to necessarily solve this yet. I just want to put this up here so that you can see what it looks like, and then we can explain the rules of how to solve it. And then in the future videos, then we'll actually go through a lot of these problems and stuff like that. And I have to make sure that I make my dots nice and dark so that you can see them, because I'm actually in a brighter room today. So I know that this looks a little weird, and it looks like a bunch of, it almost looks like dice or something like that, because of the dots and the dot and the 4 dots and things like that. So here are our 4 elements: the 7, the 5, the 91, and the x. Those are going to be our 5 our 5 items that we're using. So here are our rules. These dots don't have to be scary. So step 1 is we're going to change the 4 dots into an equal sign. And this is going to happen on the row, like underneath or next to or something like that. You're not going to actually erase these dots and turn it into an equal. So that's the first thing that we're going to want to do, is that we change the 4 dots into an equal sign. The second step is to create fractions So you're going to make 2 fractions. One is going to be from the set of numbers on the left-hand side, and one is going to be from the set of numbers on the right-hand side of these 4 dots. So again, it's going to be from the left and the right side of the 4 dots. Okay, so to create the fraction, the number to the left of the 2 dots will always be your numerator. And I missed a letter, sorry. If you don't remember what a numerator is, it is the top number of the fraction. So the number to the right of the 2 dots is always the denominator, or the bottom number. If you put these in the wrong spot, you will end up with the wrong answer. So it is really important that you make sure that you get this step right. Again, or you are going to, this is the step that can completely throw the whole problem off, because if you accidentally put, if you invert these and make the left number the denominator and the right number the numerator, you're going to end up with a completely different problem. And then the final step of what you do to solve this is cross multiply. And solve for x. So those are the steps that are involved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase steps 1 through 4, but I'm going to leave the same problem up here. So while I'm erasing, or before I erase, if you need a second to finish writing all of this down, please hit pause, though I guess since this is a recording, once I start erasing, you could always rewind it. I don't get the ability to do that when I record this stuff. So what I want to do is actually show you how this turns into solving for x when we do the problem and when we follow those 4 steps. So our first step is to turn this into an equal sign, and then we are going to end up with 2 fractions on either side. So let's just work with the 7 and the 5 right now. So the 7 is to the left of our 2 dots. So we said the number that's to the left of the 2 dots will always be our numerator. So that means when we turn this into our fraction down here, 7 is going to be our top number, and 5 is going to be our bottom number because it's the number to the right of the 2 dots. So really when we have a ratio that starts off with dots, it's always going to end as a fraction problem. So if we look at the one on this side, the number to the left of the 2 dots is always going to be our numerator. So we're going to bring that down and make it the top number. And then the number to the right of the 2 dots is always going to be our denominator. So we put that down on the bottom. Now, anytime you have an equal sign in between 2 fractions, equals always means that you cross multiply. So that means you're going to multiply the 7 and the x, and it means you're going to multiply the 91 and the 5. So 7 times x. So anytime you have a number and you have to multiply it by a letter, it just becomes the number with the letter right next to it. So in this case, it's going to be 7x. And you might need your calculator for this one. So 91 times 5. You could also do this longhand. It is 455. And I guess I kind of lied. I said I wasn't going to work this problem out, but I guess I ended up doing that, didn't I? Sorry. It wasn't intentional. So if we know that 7 x's equals 455, and we need to find one of them, then that means we have to divide this number by whatever is in front of x. So when we, and if you use the calculator for this, this is the number that's going to go in the calculator first. So 455 divided by 7 is going to give you 65. So the answer to this is x equals 65. So what the heck does that mean, basically? It means that to make these equations, or to make these fractions equal, this number has to be 65. That's what it means. Okay, so I'm going to erase, and then I'm going to actually explain what the dots mean, and that's going to be the last part of this video. So if you did have your calculator, you could put it away for now. So the dots that are in these ratios actually stand for words. I know it seems a little weird. So the 2 dots stand for is to. And you would think if 2 dots stands for 2 words, then the 4 dots would stand for lots of words, but it doesn't. It stands for as. So if we were going to write this out, really what this means, or even when you say it, is 7 is to 5 as 91 is to x. So that's what this ratio looks like in terms of words. But when you write the problem out mathematically, it's a lot easier and faster to replace all of these words with dots. So that's where the dots come in. So that's the basics of ratios. We still are going to work with what happens with when we're going to solve more, especially when x is in a different spot. When these are word problems, and when they look like this, and how you handle it if the problem looks like this first, rather than in the dots. So, I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next couple videos. Bye!